Buddy, welcome to MFSN's Thursday, 4:30 p.m. MLB Fantasy Strategy Show. I'll be your host today, Casey Scheinvold. Dr. Dan is once again off saving the world somewhere else, so he'll be joining us next week. But forever present and forever helpful is my partner in crime, Ross the Boss. How you doing, Ross?
Doing great. I am excited. It was an unbelievable day for you yesterday. Your Yankees actually were involved in a perfect game, not a no-hitter. It's a little different. It's a perfect game. It only happened 24 times out of 250,000 Major League Baseball games. And I wouldn't guess this pitcher would do this in a million years.
No, if you had to pick one the Yankees was going to do it, I don't think anybody would have picked Domingo German at the start of the season.
No, he was in the pool that I had. He wasn't one of the guys I picked to pitch a perfect game. I actually remember Tom Browning pitching a perfect game for the Reds back in '88. That's how old I am.
Yeah.
And ever since he did that, they always called him Perfect Tom, they would call him in Cincinnati. Because he pitched Cincinnati's only perfect game ever.
Yeah. The Yankees have had 4.
Yep. I remember David Wells.
That was the first one since 99. David Wells in 98. I think David Cohn in 99. And then, of course, Don Larson in the World Series in 69. So
Don Larson. Yep. So you guys have a lot of history with that.
Famous one. Yeah.
But does it count because they played Oakland? Well, I mean, does it count?
It takes a little of the shine off of it, but still 27 up, 27 down against anybody. These are still major league hitters, even if they're not.
I agree. I'm just teasing. I'm wearing an Oakland A's shirt just to give them a little support. But Rizzo made a great play to save the perfect game.
Yeah.
And the last play, your third baseman Donaldson, it looked like an easy play, but it was actually a tough hop.
Yeah, that was a tough hop. Uncle Ted's with us, of course. Tommy Wham Bam, thank you, fam. I like the nickname. I still don't like Tommy Pham, but I like the nickname, so that's good.
God, did you see the Mets owner first of all, I never heard of an owner calling a press conference the day before before a game. I thought he was going to fire the manager, but it was just basically, asking for forgiveness from the fans how bad the Mets are, and if it doesn't improve, there'll be some changes, he basically said.
Yeah.
Did you see any of the video clip of that?
I didn't watch it.
It was the oddest thing, Casey. It was like he was sitting in this weird round chair. It looked like he was at a bar. I mean, it was just a very strange. I know he's upset, and the Mets or Padres, just take your pick, are probably the most disappointing team this year in baseball. But I mean, it was just an odd thing to do before a game. And of course, the Mets lost last night too. So there you go.
Yeah, no, it's always weird. He's turning into kind of the Jerry Jones of the baseball.
He really is. He has more money than anybody. So money's not an object. But I think Buck Showalter, he's the manager in the Mets now, if I'm correct. He'll be out of a job by All-Star break unless there's a miracle like turnaround. I do think the Mets will win today with Scherzer pitching. I do feel they'll get the win today. But I just feel that team is old. I feel that they don't really have any synergy together. And I think it's time to just revamp the whole team up.
Yeah. It speaks to me of when the Padres tried to create kind of a super team right away by getting Matt Kemp, Justin Upton, and Will Myers, probably the worst defensive outfield ever, and they had to break them all up by the All-Star break. It was so bad.
Did you know Will Myers is the third highest paid Red this year? Even though is
he third or is he fourth? I thought Ken Griffey Jr. was still the third highest paid.
No, Griffey's fourth.
Oh, Griffey's fourth.
Will Myers is like $9 million.
Yeah.
But they cut him basically. I mean, they sent him to the minors.
They DFA'd him. Yeah.
Yeah. And so another waste of money. Good job, Cincinnati, signing the wrong guy.
Yeah. That kind of brings me to what I was kind of hoping we would talk about today. And we alluded to it on Tuesday. Kind of, we're near the midseason. July 1st is this weekend. The All-Star break is shortly after that. So I was kind of looking at who are the fantasy all-stars for the first half of the season, right? And when I was considering it, I mean, we can talk about who are the best players in fantasy. You know, Ronald Acuna Jr. has been a stud, but you had to draft him with the top 3 picks. So when I'm looking at kind of the best players are the ones who weren't predicted to do so well, and then whether we think they'll keep it up in the second half. You know, we talked about Domingo German already. The guy's been great. You know, he ironically a month ago he was suspended for 10 days for a sticky substance, and now all of a sudden, you know, the last 2 outings he's been dynamite. So is he a sell high candidate for you? Is he a hold and he's going to keep it up candidate for you? How do you see him?
I think he's a definitely hold. I mean, this guy is out there. Every time he's out there, he's there to play. And I don't think he's reached the ceiling yet, Casey. I mean, I think this guy has a lot more to go. I like him a lot. I feel, you know, he's very underestimated in Major League Baseball, but in the fantasy world, people do respect him.
Yeah. No, I
mean, let's do this. Let's do position by position. I'll tell you my all-star fantasy players at each position. And I did not prepare for this. This is just Ross the Boss going off.
Well, we'll start at catcher then. I think we probably both agree who's been the best value because his preseason ranking was almost 260. But go ahead.
Tell me who your catcher is.
Well, I think the best value has been Jonah Heim. I mean,
I agree.
11 home runs, a 280 average, on pace for 100 RBIs, and literally preseason 258 ranking in Yahoo's rankings for standard 5x5 leagues. You know, I can admit that I swung and missed when I said Salvador Perez was going to underwhelm. He's been a top 5 catcher this year.
Yeah, I was going to say Salvador Perez. A lot of people didn't have him in their top 3 or 4 rounds in drafts.
No, in fact, I think his ADP was somewhere around 12.
Yeah, 13. I mean, people did I know it's Kansas City. I know they're not hitting. I know they're probably the worst team the worst or second worst team in the American League. I'm wearing the shirt of the team that's
the worst.
That could be first.
Sure.
But Salvador Perez for sure is having a great season. And then, you know, then you got the other guys like JT Realmuto. I mean, he's having an average year. I mean, he's not like tearing the cover off the ball.
But you had to use he was a top 2 or 3 catcher you had to take to get him. And he's catcher 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. He's catcher 9 on the season, which isn't bad. But if you're drafting,
but he was the first catcher taken in many leagues. I mean, he was like JT was the guy. I mean, everybody had
JT and maybe some people took Adley Rutschman or Will Smith, but
yeah, those 3. Will Smith's having a good year, and Adley Rutschman, you know, if you took him, he's not a bad pick. I like Baltimore, as you know. But again, Heim is the guy, the surprise guy.
What's your Uncle Ted wanted to give us his names of people who were underestimated at the start of the season who have been
I need catchers.
Well. Yep. I think that's a good list of players. Absolutely.
Name them. I can't see him from
you can't see him. Okay. You got Bryce Elder, Ezekiel Duran, Yuri Perez, Hunter Brown, Adolis Garcia, Luis Robert, Braxton Garrett.
So the Luis Robert people knew. I mean, that's not like a surprise. Andreas Garcia had a good season last year.
Adolis, yeah. But he's like the number 3 or 5 ranked player in fantasy right now. I don't think
he is. He's Mr. RBI. I mean, he's second in RBIs in the league to Mr. Ohtani, I believe.
But so who's your mid-season fantasy all-star starting first baseman?
So Simeon, of course,
first base.
First base. So going off first base, of course, Freeman for me is, of course, everybody knows who he's I think the best fantasy first baseman right now.
And he's number 4.
I think Olsen's having a pretty good year. Again, everybody had him kind of in the top. They had him pretty up there. I'm gonna go. I'll take a Texas Ranger, and I'll take Noel. What's his name?
Nathaniel Lowe.
Nathaniel Lowe at first base.
Yeah, he's
another guy that I like that's having is good. He's going to be a real all-star. Is going to be Diaz for Tampa Bay.
Yeah.
I feel he's been overlooked too. I mean, no one drafted him. And I think he's going to either be starting or be on the bench for the American League All-Stars.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Freddie Freeman, the surprise with him, I mean, everybody had him ranked as the first or second first baseman, but if you told me he was going to have 10 stolen bases before the All-Star break, I would say you were crazy. And so that's where he gets his real value. Actually, the guy I was looking at is somebody who, Ross, I'll give you credit for the past few years. You've mentioned him on waiver wires time and time again, and that's Arizona Diamondback Christian Walker.
I forgot about him. Again, I'm not prepared, but
right. On the year, he's batting 280. Like Matt Olson has 26 home runs. That's just absurd. Pete Alonso has 24, but Alonso's batting 220. Matt Olson's batting 237. Christian Walker's batting 280. His issue was always batting average, and he's got 44 runs scored, 54 RBIs, and 16 home runs. Like those numbers are silly for somebody who was a 10th round pick.
10th round, and he's playing for a first place team.
And he's playing for a first place team. Yeah. I mean, hey, let's not sleep on your Cincinnati Reds Spencer Steer, who qualifies at
rookie. Too bad he won't be rookie of the year.
12 home runs, 9 RBIs, 280 batting average coming into today. I mean, let's be honest.
Steer's having a great year.
Even drafted.
Yeah. I mean, again, the Reds have a lot of hitting, and their hitting's just going to get better and better throughout the season because, when it gets hot and muggy in Cincinnati, the ball flies out of there.
Yeah.
Second base, I was looking at stats last night, Casey.
Yeah.
I'm going back to the Arizona Diamondbacks, and we all like kissed this guy goodbye. I remember like he had a great season in 19, and then he was stagnant for the past few years. But Marte he's been like a stud
this year. Yeah.
I mean, look at his I think this is all off memory. The 290, he has stolen
294, bases. 6 stolen bases, 15 home runs, 60 runs scored. Like he's been at the top of the lineup. He's been automatic. So he's on my.
You drafted him, and I'm sure it was late. Congratulations. I mean, this guy's. There's Simeon that plays for Texas, who's going. He's
going bananas. But we knew he was going to go bananas. He was the top ranked.
But again, he was drafted in a lot of leagues in the first or second round. It wasn't like a big surprise. But Marte's the big surprise for me in fantasy baseball.
Yeah, he's one of the big ones for his comeback. I mean, look, it was mentioned by Uncle Ted earlier. Ezekiel Duran on the year, 322 average with 11 home runs, and he was again undrafted. You could have,
and he's multi-positioned. I mean, he's
second, third, short, and outfield.
Yeah, I mean, he's unbelievable. I picked him up in many leagues just for that reason because he can play.
So that's who has to be mentioned. Your boy Jonathan India. I know he's not getting the press because of what McLean and
De La
Cruz are doing. But look, on the season, he is the 5th ranked.
He is, but I really believe he's going to be traded for a starting pitcher. I think he's going to be the trade bait for the Reds.
Oh, sure, he might be, but he's on pace for 100 runs scored in a 2020 season.
Oh, I love him. I want to grow my hair like him. I mean, I love Jonathan India.
He would look good that way.
I'm a huge fan is, but I just don't feel his time in Cincinnati is going to be there much longer, just because the Reds need to trade him and get a starting pitcher immediately. I'm hoping it's Lucas Giolito of the White Sox. He pitched great yesterday. He's an LA kid, and the kid's a winner, so I really want him on the Reds. So we'll see what happens.
Uncle Ted wanted to bring up Luis Arias as he's close to 400. And Uncle Ted, what he's been able to do has been amazing, and I'm not discounting that. But this is for fantasy value. And I think when you're only scoring, 36 runs and driving in 30 runs and only hitting 3 home runs and only stealing 1 bag, you're more of a one-trick pony. Now, that one trick is insane, and he deserves to be a real-life all-star. But I don't know I don't think that translates to a fantasy.
I mean, he's had 5 for 5 games like 3 times in June, like unbelievable. But he reminds me a lot like Tony Gwynn, like not much power, doesn't really steal that much.
Well, it's kind of Derek Jeter-ish.
So it's like his fantasy value is very like mediocre at best. I mean, it's not somebody I'm trading for, Uncle Ted, but he's not an all-star. I'd rather have Marte at second base as my undervalued all-star this season.
What about shortstop?
Shortstop is tough. I mean, I'm going to say the obvious. I got to say it because I'm a Reds fan. Eli Cruz
Yeah,
to
since he's
me,
come up has been
I
awesome.
mean, and I love Matt McClain too. I mean, I love both of them. Matt McClain, I knew at UCLA. I mean, and he's having a great year also. But De La Cruz, I would say, because we talked about him a little bit before the season. I remember you brought him up, but again, it wasn't like nobody was drafting him.
No, he wasn't. He
Um,
was De La Cruz was drafted and held. If he might have been a last pick of the draft if he had an
Yeah,
A
there
spot
you
and
go.
stuff.
But I mean, I love Corey Seager. I mean, again, he's like somebody that I think will just consistently just get home runs, RBIs, hits. I mean, he's just a machine in Texas. But the shortstop position is just so heavy with Wando Franco, all these guys.
Yeah, the big names.
Did you see how they benched? Do you see how they benched Wando Franco because he's not a team player?
Yeah, I actually appreciated that. I didn't realize he had 25 steals. The
Yeah.
speed
Oh,
wasn't
yeah.
supposed to be his kind of forte. But I'm going to name probably the top ranked shortstop, and that's Fernando Tatis, because he missed like the first 20 games of the season. So he's got
He's a
almost
cheater, though. You see, he cheats. He
I
takes
know, but he's got
steroids.
100 at bats less than most people, and he's on pace for a 30-30 season. I mean, that's crazy. But if I had to pick the one kind of surprise for me,
Yes, do it.
Geraldo Perdomo from Arizona.
Oh, yeah.
Again,
Good one.
Undrafted, and he's batting 296, 300 with 5 home runs, 10 stolen bases, and that's just not something that
that's a good one. I totally forgot about him, and that's a great pick.
Third base, my friend.
Third base, I'm going with another Texas Ranger.
Yeah, this guy's been a stud.
I mean, Jung is just a machine. I mean, it's all he does is get RBIs and hits and home run. I mean, this guy is just a scoring machine, and
I think he can keep it up because this guy has.
I agree. I mean, I've watched him play for the past month on MLB, on all the MLB channels, and he's the real deal. This kid. I mean, he's really good, and he's a good fielder. I mean, he's again, but he has no one working for him for press. No one knows he's having a great year, except me and you, and maybe Uncle Ted. That's it.
Yeah, that's he's been amazing. Josh Jung was going to be my pick. The other guy I'll mention is an oldie but goodie. Like, if you had told me that Justin Turner was going to have a successful year in Boston after being kind of just dismissed by the Dodgers, let go, he's a top 90 player in fantasy right now. He's on pace for 20 home runs. He could sneak out 100 runs scored or even 100 RBIs. I mean, Justin Turner is not somebody anybody thought of. You think of him as like past his prime or unable to produce, and you know what? He's not doing too bad.
And JD Davis in San Francisco is having a stellar year. I mean, no one drafted him. He's somebody, if you have him on your team, is not embarrassing you or not pulling you down your stats at all. I think Chapman's going to pick it up a little bit in Toronto. If I had to pick some guys who haven't started hitting really yet. Your guy Vladimir Guerrero, who you're named after, is not having a good year.
No, but I would bet if you want me to pick a couple players to buy low, he's near the top of the list.
I agree. I think he's going to start heating up. That's what I was just going to say. I was going to tell you that he's going to have like a huge month in July. I mean, he's going on a huge tear. And then you'll say to me, "I told you so," but you won't be able to say that now because I just corrected myself and said he's going to have a big month in July.
Well done. Way to correct yourself.
Yeah.
I'm proud of you. Give me your top 2 or 3 outfielders.
Outfielders, it's tough. I like this year, and I don't know if you think about him, but I like Hayes for Baltimore. I just feel
Austin Hayes. Yeah.
Austin Hayes. I just love how he plays, and I just feel he always gets those hits when they need them. I like anybody in Baltimore. I love Gunnar Henderson. He's another guy at third base that I think is going to be picking up in the second half that you must pick up. Also in the outfield, Casey, tell me some more names in the outfield that are excelling.
Well, I think Dolis Garcia, as mentioned earlier, might be the biggest. I mean, he's 60 RBI, 66 RBI, 60 runs scored. So he's up there. I think you got to look at somebody you've been naming since the beginning of the year. Lane Thomas has been consistently good.
He really has.
Washington. He's on a nobody team. So people don't pay attention to him, but he could be 30-20 with over 100 runs scored this year.
Every time I look at the stat sheet, he has a home run, Lane Thomas, and no one knows who he is. I mean, it's like a joke. No one knows who this guy is. Mookie Betts is not having a great year, but I think he's going to pick it up in the second half. I think the whole Dodger team would play better ball in the second half, as much as I hate to say it.
Here's a question. Jamal has a question for you, Ross. I'm going to direct it to you.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't Cincy make India part of their core?
Because you got to trade something to get something in baseball. You can't. The Reds are not going to trade the prospects, Casey. You know that, and you're a prospect guy. Not going to trade Christian and Carcione. Not trading any of these guys. Or McLean or De La Cruz. So now we're down to who do we trade that has value? I mean, Votto has no value. They're not going to trade Stevenson. They like him at catcher. So India is the odd man out. And I don't know who else.
This question.
Friedel's not worth anything.
Do you believe in Lodolo or Hunter Green? Would
Hunter
you
Green's
use
back.
one of? Would you use?
I love Lodolo if he's healthy. Lodolo, he pitches. When he's healthy, he hasn't been healthy this year. That's why his stats weren't that great at the beginning of the year. But I do believe Lodolo. Hunter Green, I love. I just don't think his ceiling is super high. He just has to learn how to place the ball in the right position.
If you're in a win now position like the Reds are for the rare chance at winning the Central, do you trade?
Rare chance? How dare you?
You trade. Well, let's be honest. The Castellinis.
Yes, we need a starter. Hunter Green's out till August. Okay.
So would you trade him to get the starter?
We're not trading Hunter Green. We're not trading Lodolo. They're not going to trade.
Let me ask you this, and I'll say something maybe a little.
The only guy that I can imagine Cincinnati's going to trade is that's worth value. Rookie of the year. He's having a good year right now. That has some value that will get you the pitcher you need is Jonathan India. Period. They're not going to trade anybody else.
Andrew Abbott.
They're not trading these young studs. Okay. No. Why would they? First of all, the Reds are cheap, so why would they trade a guy that's making the league minimum? Why?
Nope, you're right. Okay. Other outfielders. I think Josh Lowe deserves to be considered. This guy wasn't.
He was hot in May, and he's cooled down a little bit. But
still on the season, it's 284, 11 home runs, 44 RBIs, 18 steals. He's ranked above Mike Trout. He's ranked above Julio Rodriguez. He's ranked above Kyle Tucker. You have Jorge Soler's 21 home runs. That's got to be counting for something in Miami. He's doing a good job. I also like Jesus Sanchez in Miami. I like. I think he's and De La Cruz in Miami. I like too. I like the Marlins. I know everybody hates the Marlins. Everybody I talk to, I hate the Marlins. Nobody hates the Marlins.
Oh, I hear so many
players.
They
hate
trash
the
Marlins.
But Leody Taveras, they mentioned earlier, Uncle Ted and Jamal both. I think he deserves consideration for his kind of consistency too.
He's having a bad year, and a lot of people had him going first in the draft. And he's hitting he's
Juan
not
Soto?
having Julio Rodriguez. I mean, you and I both had him in the top 10.
Yeah, I mean, he's still on pace to go 30-30. So his batting average is only 240.
What's he have? 12 home runs? I thought he had 12 home runs. He has
13 home runs, 18 steals. So
it's hitting 240. But yes. Yeah, okay.
But fine. You have Estieri Ruiz, and his 40 steals has to be.
That was a great call by Casey Vlad to the bone shine fold with Ruiz. And that was just off minor league stats. That's how you got it.
His numbers last year were legendary
in the minors.
I mean, they were just.
Yeah, I mean, Oakland. The only guy they have that has any value is Ruiz. That's it.
Yeah, Seth Brown might have a little bit.
Mediocre.
So let's see. Other than that, anybody I would name in the outfield that's, I don't know. You could say TJ Friedel. He's been pretty good for.
TJ Friedel's been consistent. Batting average is good. RBIs is okay. Home run, he's decent. He's not going to win you any leagues, but I think Soto's going to hit a heat up during the second half if I had to pick a guy. that has huge ceiling and is young, and the Padres can't hit. The only guy that I have any faith is Tatis and Soto. The rest are a joke. But Uncle Ted has a little statement or question. I want to see what he
said
has to say.
J-Rod didn't pop last season until July when he went off. Buy low
You're
on
right.
J-Rod. I actually agree with that. I also think another huge buy low candidate in the outfield is Bryce Harper right now. If any Bryce Harper owner is willing to listen, I would buy him, because he came back super fast, as we all know, like in a legendary speed from his Tommy John surgery, and he only has 3 home runs on the season. So I think he's going to have a huge second half. So that's somebody I would target.
You have him in our league, so I can't trade him.
You can trade for him. Aaron Judge is hurt. We can just swap buy low candidates.
We'll talk about that.
All right, let's talk some starting pitchers.
Starting pitchers this year. I mean, look, there's a whole. I have a laundry list, but I'm trying to think who's my favorite guy that just came up without. Name some of the top 10, Casey, and I'll comment about him. How about that?
Kershaw.
I can't stand Kershaw. I would never get on the same page with Kershaw. I've been at Dodger Stadium many times, and he refuses to sign autographs to little kids. And when I see that, he gets on my list. He's on the bad list. So Kershaw, never once will I have him on any of my teams. If I do, it's very short-term guy.
You got Shane McClanahan, who was predicted.
McClanahan's hurt. I love Dirty Harry.
Well, he's starting tonight, I think.
I love Dirty Harry. He has unbelievable stuff. I think Tampa Bay's playing right now. I don't think he started today. But I do like him. Before he got hurt, he was one of my Cy Young candidates, actually.
I mean, Nathan Eovaldi has been a godsend for Texas.
I think Eovaldi, if I had to pick somebody, him or Gray for Texas also are the 2 biggest surprises in fantasy for me as pitchers. Again, I'm going very Texas heavy just because they're in first place.
I think the biggest surprise so far has been Tyler Wells in Baltimore. I mean, he probably went undrafted in many leagues, and he's like a top 6 starter right now in fantasy with over a strikeout.
Really? Wow.
6 wins.
I have him 0 in my leagues.
Whip. Yeah. I mean, Shohei's been what you expected.
How's Tishan, what's his name? Tijan Walker for the Phillies.
Taijuan Walker?
Yeah. How's
the Phillies?
Where's he rate?
Let's see, on the season.
I mean, he's been lights out the past few starts.
I know. I'm very happy that I own him. He's only he doesn't have more. He only has like 8 strikeouts per game, 8 per 9 innings. So that hurts his value. He still has a 4 ERA. The problem was his month of May was
it was horrible,
awful. So I think Mitch Keller. Oh, Uncle Ted just said it too. I think Mitch Keller has been one of the biggest finds in fantasy.
Mitch Keller, I like a lot. He's 8-3, I think, or 9-3 for the year. 9
has over a strikeout per inning.
Yeah, I mean, he's a great pitcher at home. He's not that great away. But I like Helen Keller a lot. He has great stuff.
I mean, speaking of rookies coming up and dominating, Yuri Perez.
Oh my God, Casey, he's one of my favorite. I love watching that guy pitch. He strikes people out like crazy. He's like 6'7", and he's just throws. He is not intimidated by anybody. I think he's 20 years old. I mean, he's like a phenom.
Some of the guys that were mentioned earlier, Bryce Elder's been great. We all knew Spencer Strider would strike out the world. He's been doing it.
Also, the guy for Tampa Bay is what's his name? Eflin.
Zach
Eflin. He's been
very good.
Zach Eflin's been pitching great. I mean, this guy is just
the Texas guy you didn't mention who's been pitching great is Dane Dunning.
Dunning, yeah, I like Dunning too. Again, remember we made fun of the Texas starters?
He's not going to strike out. Well, he's not going to strike out guys. From a fantasy perspective, Dan's kind of rule of strikeout.
I love that rule. I mean, every time I look at a pitcher, I got to make sure they have more strikeouts than innings. It's unbelievable with that guy. I mean, it's his stupid little rule he has.
Who's the number 2 fantasy closer this year? Can you answer that?
Benitez?
No. Alexis Diaz.
Alexis Diaz of the Cincinnati Reds, because the Reds are in first place.
Closer.
I would never predict that. last year the Reds closers was like a revolving door. I had no respect at all for their bullpen. And Diaz, you're right. I thought if the Reds were not in the playoff hunt, he would be traded away. I guess he's not being traded away.
I mean, nobody's been as good as Felix Bautista. That guy's been an
Oh my
animal.
God! I mean,
But
it's just.
Diaz has been close.
And they have this other guy in Baltimore named Suri.
Yenier Cano.
Oh, Cano, right? And he's been on fire too.
Yep.
You know?
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, so like the best relievers so far for the value have been Diaz and Camilo Doval of San Francisco. These guys have just been lights out. Everybody else has been kind of chalk. Let's see.
I mean,
Evan Phillips has been surprisingly good in LA.
Only and the other LA pitcher we had on our channel last week, Carlos Estevez of the Angels, who's 19 for 9. I think he's 20 for 20 now.
20 for 20 with 41 Ks in 33 innings.
Yeah,
but his whip isn't great. That brings his value down a little bit.
His whip's a little shaky, but 20 to 20, and they signed him from Colorado, so they took a little shot on him, having no idea if he can do well in sea level. Obviously, he can. If you haven't watched our interview with him, you can watch it. You can watch it. It's on YouTube. You can watch the interview we had with him, which we learned a lot of cool stuff about him, actually.
Yeah. So let's do the real quick. We'll take 5 minutes.
But the relief pitcher who's the best undervalued pick, I would say, is probably Carlos Estevez, because, again, I drafted him.
He was their 4th choice going into the season. So it's and he's.
I picked him in like the last round of the draft in our draft.
Now Reed Detmers, the starter for the Angels, has finally started pitching the way he was supposed to. So he's another candidate. So, all right, here we go. Give me your most disappointing fantasy player to this point of the season.
The most disappointing player, I would say, overall, probably either Bryce Harper or Juan Soto. Thinking who else was like just not hitting at all.
I would put Trey Turner on the list.
Oh, Trey Turner I had too, but he had a little pickup the past couple of weeks.
Yeah, but still on the season, he's only.
Oh, Trey Turner was like a number 1 pick. I mean, Julio Rodriguez, I know he's had I thought he would have a better year than he's having, but Trey Turner for sure is on that. You're 100% right.
Cedric Mullins, but that's because he was hurt.
He was hurt for over a month.
Yeah,
I mean, it's like saying Aaron Judge too. It's like
and now I don't mean to say I told you so, but I kind of do.
Hunter Dozier.
We were talking about busts at shortstop. My top bust was Xander Bogaerts.
Oh, yeah.
And he started off the season awesome, but he has been horrible.
I told you, everybody in San Diego can't hit except a couple of guys, and it's contagious. Something's going on in the water in San Diego. None of these guys can hit. I mean, it's Bogaerts. I mean, it's just that stadium is not a hitter's ballpark, and Bogaerts was spoiled. He played in Boston, where any guy can hit the wall. I mean, it's like a joke.
And one guy who was kind of considered a sleeper at the second base position for the Cleveland Guardians, Andres Jimenez, has been horrible. I mean, he was considered a 5th round pick going into the season, and he's batting .240 with 5 home runs and 8 stolen bases, and it's just been ugly.
I mean, Cleveland as a whole has not been hitting that. I mean, Jose Ramirez is not having a great year like he usually does.
Jose Altuve has been terrible.
Altuve's been off and on the IR. I mean, it's
he only has 100 at bats this year, Altuve.
Yeah, I mean, it's been disappointing there. Again, the teams to beat or have those great players like Atlanta and Arizona, all these, Carroll's the rookie of the year. I mean, I don't think anybody's going to catch him as much as I want De La Cruz to catch him. He won't.
Yeah.
You just give him the award now. So we talked about Tuesday, your Cy Young winner, your Cy Young leader right now, and you were kind of hesitant on Ohtani. Who's your Cy Young number 1 candidate right now in the American League?
In the American League? It's between, I mean, I'm not going to deny Ohtani's been special. But for me, it's between Framber Valdez and
I like that.
And Nathan Eovaldi. Shane McClanahan, if he stays healthy, I think could enter that conversation. He's got 11 wins already, 100 strikeouts. Joe Ryan, I said him last week on Tuesday. And then on Tuesday night, he went out, I think, or Wednesday night, he went out and just like gave up 6 runs in 2
I saw that.
thirds. I was
almost
like,
called you.
oh, but I still like him. But for me, I think Ohtani deserves the MVP. But I don't think he's the Cy Young this year.
I mean, how cool would it be if he won the MVP and Cy Young? That's the only reason I wanted to.
Did Verlander do that the one year?
Who?
Did Verlander do that one year in Detroit? I can't remember. I know.
I know. I don't. I have to look that up. I don't know.
I don't know. I mean, in the National League,
Zach Gallen.
I know you don't like Clayton, but he's been awesome so far this year. But if it's not him, I like Zach Gallen, and if Spencer Strider keeps putting up the numbers he's going to put up, he could strike out 300 batters. That's.
Yeah, but he gets lit up. There's certain games that he really gets lit up.
Mitch Keller deserves some love in Pittsburgh.
Yeah. Mitch Keller, 8-3, 9-3.
Marcus Stroman's been great in Chicago. So, but
he got
fantasy
lit up last
MVP
time.
is obviously, to me, Ohtani. I mean, it's insane.
Ronald Acuna.
I know Ronald Acuna Jr. is the best fantasy hitter in baseball. But if you're talking MVP because of what he does with the bat and pitching, I mean, Ohtani became the first pitcher in 105 years the other night to hit 2 home runs in the same game. He struck out 10 guys. Like that's just silly.
Yeah, I call Ohtani kind of like a Halley's Comet. You only see this once every 100
years. You're not going to. I mean, enjoy it while he's here.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Corbin Carroll deserves some love though too.
I love that kid. Anybody who has their mom pick him up at the stadium and drop him off gets my vote.
That's always your standard. I love it.
I love it. I love how he doesn't drive himself to the game. It's the best.
Why? Parking's such a pain.
Players parking in the back. He gets there 3 hours early. No one goes to Arizona Diamondback games. It's a ghost town there. I mean, have you been in that stadium? It's horrible. I've been there. I hate that place.
Uncle Ted says Acuna's going to be a 50-70 player. I think.
Who?
Ronald Acuna Jr. is going to be 50 home runs, 70 stolen bases. That's bold, I said. But I think I remember in our preseason talk, bold predictions, I said Acuna could be the first 50-50 player. I didn't go 50-70. I guaranteed 40-40. I said I think he could hit 50-50. I'll pat my own back on that one.
Yeah, I think he's the MVP. They should just give it to him right now.
Oh my gosh, if he stays healthy, his numbers could be insane. Matt Olson, Matt Olson reminds me a lot of Adam Dunn. Remember Adam Dunn?
I'm a big fan of Adam Dunn's. Yes, he was like a Adonis. That was huge.
If on base percentage was more important than batting average, Adam Dunn was your guy. Adam
Dunn was a lot bigger than Olson. Adam Dunn, when Adam Dunn swung the bat, it looked like Paul Bunyan with the
swinging an
axe.
Yeah,
I mean, it was like a toothpick to him.
But Matt Olson has 60 runs scored and 62 RBIs already with 26 home runs.
It helps when Riley hits before him and Otunia before him. I mean, if I had that protection, I'll be doing the same thing. But I don't.
All right. So before we get out of here, who did you name as your Cy Youngs, by the way, and MVPs? You went with.
Oh, I mean, I'll just go with all the chalk. I mean, so far it's Ohtani in the American League. Just because I live in California and I see this.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm kind of like hypnotized with all the press he gets here in LA. So if you don't agree with me, I understand. I get it.
No. I mean, look, I'm telling you, hands down, he's the best all-around baseball player I've ever seen.
I mean, I turn any local channel in LA. It's all about Ohtani 24 hours a day. He should have his own network here. American League, I agree with you. Ronald Acuna, I can't go wrong with
National
him.
League, yeah.
I mean, I can't. And I've been saying Zach Gallen, I want Strider to do it, but I don't think he will. But I think Zach Gallen, especially playing for a first place team and doing what he's doing in Arizona.
Yeah.
I think he's the odds on, but we got a whole nother second half of baseball
I know, it's exciting.
I mean, what we're saying now is just like, it doesn't count. I mean, it's the halftime coming up. You know, we
All
got
right,
one more
so
week, and then we got All-Star game, and then we got the big run. I mean,
I know. So last question for you, and then we'll get the heck out of here.
good.
Who are your favorite buy low candidates for the second half of the fantasy baseball season?
Buy low, you know, I'm going to say Julio Rodriguez. I know he's having an okay year, but I like him a lot, and also like your guy Bryce Harper. I think right now is a good time to buy Bryce Harper. I think he's going to have a huge second half. I think the Phillies will pick it up in the second half. I think they're playing horribly. They showed a little signs of life this week, and I think the Phillies are a team that last year did the same thing. They go on a huge run, and they make the playoffs barely, and they'll be in the World Series just like last year. You know, it's going to happen again. But you know, all these guys that are having great seasons, it's tough. But I mean, I would say if I had to pick like a list of like a top guy to pick up that it's not having a good year, I mean, Juan Soto would make that list.
Sure.
You know, there's a lot of superstars that are not playing well in the first half that people are probably getting sick of seeing them strike out all the time. You know, so there's not many out there, but I would say Harper and Soto are the top two.
Yeah, I'd put them up there too. I think you could add
and maybe Trey Turner, like you said, Trey Turner.
I worry that a Trey Turner owner might be stubborn still on the value.
But I mean, Trey Turner disqualifies at shortstop, correct? Or
yeah,
second base.
Yeah.
Okay, so shortstop is such a heavy position to me. I mean, there's so many good shortstops that are doing great. Like it's like 10. So if you need a shortstop, Trey Turner would be a guy I would try to trade for, but hopefully you don't, because I was going to pick up. Somebody was out there. I forgot who it was. Somebody was some shortstop. Well, it was the guy for Baltimore. Your guy, Jordan
Westberg.
He's qualified as a shortstop. I was going to pick him up. But then I noticed I had like Franco on one team, Seager on another team.
Yeah, Ellie De La Cruz. Yeah.
And I was going to pick up on our league, but you already picked him up like an idiot. I couldn't pick him up.
Of course I did. But I agree with those picks. I would add Corbin Burns as a pitcher.
Oh, yeah, that's a great one.
I would add, I think Jazz Chisholm you could probably get pretty inexpensive. Yep. And if he can stay healthy, he's going to put up great numbers, and he qualifies at second base, even though he's a center fielder now. But I agree. Bryce Harper was my top choice. I think Vladimir Guerrero Jr.
Give me Bryce's stats real quick, and then I'll go.
Bryce's stats for this year. Let me see.
Because when you make a trade offer for Bryce Harper, the first thing that owner is going to do is look at the stats. And when they look at the stats, they're going to either say, oh, he has 20 home runs, so I'm not trading him.
Bryce Harper is batting .278 with 28 runs scored, 3 home runs, 18 RBIs, and 5 stolen bases.
So just those stats alone, you know, you can trade him. You can get him for like a Garcia, Texas, let's say, or like.
Well, I wouldn't trade Adolis Garcia of Texas.
I'm not saying you, smart guy. I'm saying some other guy that has Harper that's not.
Maybe I'll give you Harper right now for Adolis Garcia. We can make that swap on air if you want.
See, you're looking at the stats.
I'm game. I'm in. I would do it in a heartbeat.
You know, we should do like a Judge Harper. We should do like a huge deal,
like this mammoth kind of.
Yeah, trade. We should do something like that just to have fun. I'm bored.
Actually, we should just.
I'll put something together. I'll put Judge on there.
Make this
Judge out till after All-Star break, but you love Judge.
Make it this completely lopsided trade. I'll give you everybody I have, and then I'll just quit the league.
Just drive Dan crazy.
Yeah.
In our league, Dr. Dan Ratner is like the commissioner, so he like plays.
And he is as ethical about being a commissioner as any commissioner has ever been. So it would drive him crazy. So
it'd be good humor. Really funny, actually.
As always, Ross. Awesome.
Good seeing you, Casey. Have a good weekend.
Yeah, you have a great weekend, Uncle
July
4th is us, Paul, and everybody else. We appreciate you.
Casey, July 4th is Tuesday, so we're not doing.
We will not be doing a show Tuesday, but we'll
be
back.
At my pool.
Bright-eyed and bushy-tailed for Thursday. I'll wear my July 4th shoes.
It's going to be 85 degrees. I'll be at my pool drinking a pina colada. How about that?
Nice for you. All right, man. Okay. You